Hello guys, and welcome to a new Pokemon Unite video. So today we're going to look at 8 Pokemon that I want to see in Pokemon Unite. So I'm going to do one from each generation to make it fair, so I'm not just picking lots from previous generations, and I kind of just want to give every gen a little bit of love. So these are just my opinions, and when selecting Pokemon I did consider a few different things. So firstly, I wanted to consider what we have in the game at the moment, looking at what needed to be introduced to make the game a little more balanced and what had been previously introduced. So far there's been 4 defenders, 2 all-rounders, 3 attackers, and 1 supporter in Blissey. And Blissey's a healer like Eldegoss, and really there's only 2 of them in the game, so it's still not really that balanced. And there's been no speedsters added, even though there's a decent number of them in the game. So I want to try and give all the roles I can as much love as possible. So I have considered also fan favourites, because that's what Pokemon Unite have been doing so far. They've been releasing Pokemon that people love, and I've also considered some of my own personal favourites, and just ones that I think would work well in the game. You know, you can't have a 47-foot wheel just rolling around the middle of the map, even though that would be insanely hilarious. I'm also not a game developer or someone who has extensive experience in MOBAs. I have over 1,000 games in Pokemon Unite, and I've played some League of Legends a long time ago, but my MOBA career isn't very long compared to some. So some things I might suggest in this video might be a little overpowered, and at times I've tried not to include cooldown timers or damage multipliers because it would have just gotten really messy, so they may not exactly be balanced, but I'm sure with some fine tuning, the concepts of these moves could be made to work. So when creating the skills of these Pokemon, I did take some inspiration of what we have at the moment, and trying to come up with a few interesting concepts myself. So enough of all the blah blah blah, let's get straight into it guys.
Ready, go!
Generation 1. So for Generation 1 guys, I have Arcanine. And Arcanine is my all-time favourite Pokemon. And I have him down as the speedster role because he is quite a fast Pokemon in game, and he evolves from Growlithe at level 5. So his first move is Fire Fang, and Growlithe lunges and bites a nearby enemy with its fiery fangs. An enemy hit is burnt for 3 seconds. His second move is Flame Wheel, and Growlithe acrobatically dashes forward, damaging all enemies hit. So that's like a bit of a dash, whereas the Fire Fang move is a damaging move that adds a status condition. So we've got 2 good moves to start off. So when Growlithe evolves into Arcanine at level 5, he gets access to 2 new moves. So firstly there's Flare Blitz, which covers Arcanine in flames and he can crash on a target area. If more than 1 target is hit, it resets the cooldown of Roar, Agility or Flame Wheel. The other move that Arcanine can learn at this stage is Overheat, and Overheat charges all of Arcanine's firepower into 1 high damage AoE burst, damaging in all directions. After use, it lowers Arcanine's attack for 10 seconds and movement speed for 3 seconds. So this move is a real high damaging move, but it does come with consequences. So it's kind of like a run in, gank and get out of there move, whereas Flare Blitz is kind of like you're dashing about, resetting cooldowns and trying to get really involved in combat. So at level 7, Arcanine can learn Roar, which unleashes a loud roar disorientating all nearby Pokemon for 2 seconds and changes their direction. Whereas the other move, Agility, allows you to dash in a designated direction. After using this move, it grants a buff for 3 seconds, increasing movement speed and attack speed by 40%. So Agility can counteract Overheat's slow speed to allow you to get away quickly after you get off that big overheat, or you can constantly have high attack speed and movement speed while flare blitzing around like crazy and just being a real speedster that can get to goal zones quick, that can just take advantage of moving around fast but doing lesser damage than the overheat build. And Roar can disorientate all the Pokemon around you to allow for your overheat to get off that max damage, or it can just disorientate people while you're moving around with Flare Blitz and being a pain. So you can see that the 2 builds either complement it being a very quick speedster or being an absolute damage machine that comes in and ganks and leaves. And for Arcanine's Unite move, I have Heat Rampage, which Arcanine explodes into flames and dives onto a targeted area, knocking up and burning all enemies for 10 seconds. His passive is Intimidate, When Arcanine engages with an enemy, it lowers that enemy's attack by 10% for 5 seconds. This ability has a 1 minute cooldown per enemy. So Arcanine can be a real useful Pokemon at either being a speedster that can move around the map quickly, a high damage dealing ganker, also with the ability to lower the damage that other enemies receive, and having something like Heat Rampage that can be good for stealing objectives.
Generation 2.
So now guys, we have Scizor for Generation 2, and we don't just get one fan favourite, we get two because we have Scyther as its pre-evolution, which was a Gen 1 fan favourite for a long time. So I have given Scizor the all-rounder role, and he evolves from Scyther at level 6, but Scyther is already quite a strong Pokemon. So the first move that Scyther learns is Quick Attack, where he can dash forward damaging all enemies hit, just quite a simple one. And Fury Swipes is where Scyther slashes the enemy with its blades up to 5 times. The previous slash must hit to continue the sequence. This move can be cancelled by reusing the move or another move, so it can be quite an interesting move just for one of the simple ones. So at level 4, Scizor can learn U-turn, where he lunges towards a designated enemy, shoving and slowing enemies hit. Scizor can then land in a targeted direction after this move hits, and during this move Scizor is immune to hindrances. The way I imagined it, it works a bit like Blaze Kick on Cinderace. At this stage, Scizor can also learn Swords Dance, where he performs a Swords Dance enhancing its attack speed and movement speed for 5 seconds. So at level 6, when Scyther evolves into Scizor, it can learn Fury Cutter, where Scizor slashes all enemies in front of it with Rage. Each enemy hit will increase the damage of this move's next hit by 10%, stacking up to 5 times. The stacks will reset after 5 seconds, and I would imagine the cooldown would be similar, so you have to get it off straight away. The other move you can learn at this stage is Bullet Punch, where Scizor dashes towards the enemy, hitting it with a swift barrage of punches. If this move KOs an enemy, its cooldown is reset, otherwise it stuns the enemy for 2 seconds. So Scizor can either be this insane multi-target AoE damage dealing Fury Cutting machine with like high damage Swords Dance, or it can use U-turn and Bullet Punch to have good mobility and move around, knocking out enemies and resetting cooldowns. So I thought it worked well as an all-rounder for this reason. So for Scizor's Unite move, I have Steel Storm, where Scizor becomes enraged, unleashing 3 powerful strikes, each knocking up the enemy's hit. When this move is used, Scizor becomes unstoppable and takes 20% less damage. So it'd be kind of similar to Garchomp, but less hits but more stunning, and it wouldn't have as big of an area of effect as Garchomp would have, because it would just be too broken then. And the passive ability is Technician. When physical damage is taken, the next boosted attack does double damage. This ability has a 30-second cooldown after that boosted attack is used. So yeah guys, I thought Scizor would make a really good all-rounder, and it has a pretty awesome moveset that's very interesting and can be used differently. You can kind of be like a Surf Greninja, or you can kind of be like this insane AoE machine.
Generation 3.
So guys, we have Metagross for Generation 3, which is a really popular Pokemon. It's a pseudo-legendary, so it's like Dragonite and Garchomp. So it was a very popular one during this generation, and I do really like it myself. We've given it the Defender role, and I think it works quite well there. It could have been an all-rounder, but we have a few all-rounders in this list, and this is the only Defender, spoiler alert. So for the evolutions, we have at level 5, we have Beldum evolving into Metang, and at level 9, we have Metang evolving into Metagross. So it's going to be a very powerful defender at level 9. It does get a big stat boost at that point. So it would be very similar to Mamoswine then, the way it evolves, and it would be more effective in the late game. Move 1 is Metal Claw. Beldum slashes all enemies in front of it, dealing damage and slowing all hit. If more than one enemy is hit, Beldum's attack is increased. So move 2 is Tackle, where Beldum rushes forward in a designated direction, dealing damage to enemies that are hit and pushing them to the side. So it'd be very similar to Mamoswine's Tackle, and the Metal Claw would work similar to how it does in the games where it boosts attack. So at level 5, Metagross can learn Magnet Rise, where Metagross rises from the ground, increasing its movement speed by 30% and making it immune to hindrances for 3 seconds. Upon using this move, close by enemies will be stunned for 1 second. And then the other move is Iron Defense. Metagross hardens the metal on its body, reducing damage taken by 20% for 3 seconds and giving itself and the closest ally a 10% shield. So Magnet Rise allows you to be a little bit more mobile and have that ability to CC, while Iron Defense allows you to take more damage and give your allies shields, so it just depends on what way you want to play. So when Metagross hits level 7, it can learn its signature move Meteor Mash, which Metagross violently lashes out in a designated direction, knocking all enemies that come into contact with it back, so it's just a good knockback. Or Flash Cannon, where Metagross shoots a widespread metal flash in a chosen direction, damaging, stunning, and knocking back all enemies hit. So that would be kind of like a Hydro Pump from a Blastoise, it's just a decent range knockback. So out of these two abilities, I would imagine Meteor Mash would do more damage, whereas Flash Cannon would give you that little bit more CC. So for Metagross's Unite move, we have Magnet Pull, where Metagross uses its magnetic field to draw all close by enemies and their basic attacks towards it for 3 seconds. Metagross is unable to move during this time and takes 50% less damage, so it'd be kind of like Gardevoir's Unite, where it brings all people into one zone. The passive is Clear Body, where Metagross cannot have its stats lowered, and status condition durations are reduced by 25%. So I don't think Metagross would be a broken defender, but I do think he would be very bulky, and he would be able to use his CC to hinder the enemy team, as well as being able to use its mobility moves if needs be to move around the map quite well.
Generation 4.
So Generation 4 has got a lot of love recently with the remakes and Legends Arceus game, and one of my favourite Generation 4 Pokemon that I think could make an amazing supporter is Roserade. So Roserade is a 3-stage evolution. So I have the evolution levels similar to Serena. So I have Budew evolving at level 4 into Roselia, and Roselia evolving at level 6 into Roserade, because if you look at Eldegoss and Blissey, they evolve very quickly, and I kind of wanted to have a similar trend for Roserade. So for move 1 we have Absorb, where Budew deals damage to a targeted enemy and heals itself by the same amount as the damage dealt. So for move 2 we have Grass Whistle, where Budew whistles in a designated direction, sleeping all enemies for 1 second caught in the whistle's path. So at level 4, when Budew evolves into Roselia, it can learn Petal Dance, where it unleashes a violent flurry of petals, damaging all nearby enemies. When an enemy is hit while under a Stun Spore or Leech Seed debuff, it extends this debuff's duration by 1 second and spreads to nearby enemies. So just to clarify here guys, there would be a universal cooldown on this so that you're not just extending it indefinitely, and also it would work with Grass Whistle because you wouldn't be able to have learnt Stun Spore or Leech Seed until level 6. So the other move you can learn at level 4 is Aromatherapy, where Roserade heals all nearby allies and clears them of all status conditions. If no allies are healed to full health, it reduces the cooldown of this move by 2 seconds. So Petal Dance is a bit more of a combat CC spreader, where Aromatherapy is just an insane heal, where it tries to keep your team at full health as much as possible and allows you to reduce your cooldown dramatically if they're not there to try and get that healing off. Obviously it sounds a bit insane, but I'm sure they could tune it. So at level 6, Roserade learns Stun Spore, where it unleashes a Stun Spore in a designated direction, stunning all enemies it touches for 1 second. Alternatively, it can learn Leech Seed, where it targets an enemy and shoots seeds onto it, absorbing health over 5 seconds. The health taken from the enemy will be added to Roserade's health. So I imagine there's 2 ways you can play Roserade guys. It's either the Petal Dance build, where you're like a combat specialist, where you're stunning the enemies, or just unkillable because of the spread of Leech Seed. It wouldn't be as broken as Venusaur doing insane damage, but you would be very tanky, or a CC machine, or you go for Aromatherapy, where you're just an insane healer. So yeah guys, I think it could be 2 very good synergizing builds there. So for Roserade Unite move, we have Giga Seed, and this one is awesome guys. It shoots 5 seeds into the air, landing at a designated location. It adds a Giga Seed to each enemy it hits with a maximum of 1 each, and instantly drains 20% of the enemy's health. This health will be distributed amongst the allied team, and it only heals allies without full health. The cool thing about this guys is it can heal anyone on your team in any location of the map. So if someone's on the other side of the map having a hard time and you pull this off, it might give them the health they need to continue the fight. So it's a pretty cool one where Dragonite's Unite move was a bit out there and you're just able to move around the map like no one had ever seen before. I kind of wanted to do something similar here, and it would obviously prioritize those with lower health first. So the passive is Poison Point, and it's very simple. Upon contact, it has a 10% chance to poison the enemy, and they just take poison damage over time. So yeah guys, I've explained a lot about Roserade already, so you have a good understanding. So now on to the next gen. So guys, just before we move on, I just wanted to say thank you for making it this far in the video. I really appreciate it and I hope you're enjoying it. And I just want to say I am a small YouTuber. I've got about 360 subscribers and I started a few months ago and I'm really enjoying the whole process. But I would love some support on this video. It did take me a long time to make and I had to put quite a bit of effort into it. Feel free to like it or interact with it in any way, just to help it get out there into the YouTube algorithm. And if you do enjoy Pokemon Unite stuff, I post a lot about it. I do a little bit of other Pokemon main series games, but it's mainly Unite, so if you enjoy that then feel free to subscribe guys. And I'll not take too much more of your time up and we'll get straight back into the video.
Generation 5.
So guys, moving into Generation 5, and we have probably the coolest bug type of all time, Volcarona, which is going to be a ranged attacker, and it evolves from Larvesta at level 4. So move 1 is String Shot, where Larvesta casts a string of web at a target enemy. This will trap the enemy, not allowing them to move for 2 seconds, so it'll be kind of like Pikachu's Electro Web. It would also have Fire Spin, where Larvesta casts a ring of fire at a designated location, dealing damage over time and burning enemies with it. Kinda similar to Charmander's Fire Spin, but I would actually like to change the way that you target it because I don't really like the way Fire Spin's targeted. So when Larvesta evolves into Volcarona at level 4, it learns Fiery Dance. Volcarona dances with flames for 3 seconds, dealing direct damage to all nearby enemies and healing itself by 10%, which can be up to 30% if inside of Fire Blast or Fire Spin, of all damage dealt while this move is active. Alternatively, it can learn Quiver Dance, where Volcarona increases its movement speed and attack speed by 10% for 5 seconds. This move can stack up to 2 times, and the cooldown is reduced each time an enemy is hit by Bug Buzz. So you can see how these moves will be able to synergize well. So at level 6, Volcarona will be able to learn Fire Blast, where it shoots a blast of fire at a designated location. Enemies within the flames take damage over time, increase the damage they take, and have their movement speed decreased by 50% until they leave. So it's quite like Charizard's, except it'll work well with Fiery Dance, just making you an in-close damage machine where you're healing off all the damage you're doing. So alternatively at level 6 you can learn Bug Buzz, where Volcarona vibrates its wings sending high damage sound waves in a cone towards enemies. If Quiver Dance is active, it doubles the spread of this move, so this is kind of like Sylveon's Hyper Voice, except with Quiver Dance it'll be able to increase the spread and in turn the damage of this dramatically. So I've really tried to create a bug build and a fire build that synergize really well together. So for Volcarona's Unite move, we have Magma Hurricane, where Volcarona flies up and is untargetable. It violently thrashes its wings to create a hurricane of magma underneath it. All enemies caught in the location will be slowed and damaged upon a final explosion, so it's just an AoE slow with high damage at the end of it. Volcarona's passive is Flame Body. When using auto attacks, Volcarona has a 5% chance to burn enemies. So just spam auto attacks like crazy and you might have a lot of burned enemies running about, but it is just a small chance, otherwise it would just be very overpowered.
Generation 6.
So for Generation 6 we have Aegislash, and Aegislash is a defender and wait, what? Pokemon Unite? No, they announced... I should have posted this earlier. So Pokemon Unite has announced Aegislash guys, and Generation 6 has been a disaster for me. I have a full awesome Aegislash build here created, and if you want to see it in another video, I'll maybe post it and compare it to the actual Aegislash build that comes out. But yeah guys, Generation 6 was a bit of a nightmare because we also had Trevenant as a Pokemon that I had put down in the list of ones to potentially create this video on. So yeah, I've been pretty good at predicting the Generation 6 Pokemon so far. So maybe the next Generation 6 Pokemon to come out will be Noivern. So I have Noivern as the role of Speedster, and the evolution is Noibat at level 4, so it evolves very quickly. So move 1 is Supersonic, and Noibat emits supersonic waves in front of it for 1 second, slowing all enemies caught in it, so it's not too overpowered for an early move. So for move 2, it learns Wing Attack, where Noibat dashes in a targeted direction, swiping its wings and damaging all Pokemon in its path. So at level 4, when Noibat evolves into Noivern, it can learn Hurricane, where Noivern dives on a targeted area, spinning its wings, creating a turbulent area of high-powered winds, slowing and damaging all enemies inside. Another move it can learn at level 4 is Tailwind, where Noivern kicks up a tailwind behind it, dashing forward and increasing its movement speed by 40% for 2 seconds. So we have one that's more direct and does good damage and a bit of CC, where the other move is all about mobility and being able to move in and out very quickly. So at level 7, Noivern can learn Boom Burst, where Noivern violently emits high-frequency sound waves, damaging all enemies within its area of effect. For every enemy hit, it lowers the cooldown of this move by 0.5 seconds. So again, you can engage with Hurricane, maybe get right on top of people, slow them, and then just start boom bursting, and the more people it hits, the more it reduces the cooldown. And I'm sure once it gets the upgraded moves, this will be even lower and it could do extreme damage, but probably be very squishy. The other move at level 7 is Dual Wing Beat. So Noivern strikes with its wings, dealing damage in a targeted location. If this strike is successful, Noivern can strike again with its other wing. The second hit is always critical and deals 20% more damage to the target. So you've got a build there that can just be very in the middle, high damage, and another one that can be kind of like Absol, where you're sneaking about very fast and you're just going in and tearing people apart and ganking very quickly and then getting out of there. So for Noivern's Unite move, we have Screeching Tremor, where Noivern screeches violently in front of it, dealing high damage and slowing all enemies caught in it. The closer the enemy, the more heavily they are slowed. So it'd be kind of like a large-scale hyper voice from Sylveon that just slows enemies and does high damage, but obviously in a Unite move fashion. So the passive would be Speed of Sound, and because Noivern is a speedster, I wanted to give it a relatable passive. So when Noivern is not in combat, its movement speed is increased by 15%. So it can get around the map really quickly, it can clear its jungle quickly, it can be a jungle invader. So yeah, hopefully that would be a really awesome addition to the game with a lot of viability.
Generation 7.
So, believe it or not guys, when I started writing this list, Decidueye was actually not even announced yet, and I had Decidueye down on my list along with a few others. I always thought Decidueye was an awesome starter, but I really like Vikavolt here, and I just enjoyed playing with it during my Sun and Moon playthrough, and I think it has a really cool typing, as well as some awesome moves that I could try and incorporate into Pokemon Unite. So first of all, I've given it the attacker role, and the evolutions are Grubbin, which evolves into Charjabug at level 5, and then we have level 7, it evolves into Vikavolt. So move 1 is Bug Bite, where Grubbin bites aggressively in the targeted direction, damaging all enemies it hits, so it's just a basic attack move. So for move 2 we have Charge, where Grubbin gets an electrical charge, zapping it forward and dealing damage to all it makes contact with. So a very basic moveset to start off. So at level 5, when Grubbin evolves into Charjabug, it can learn Sticky Web, where it shoots a large web in a designated direction. It explodes and traps enemies upon contact or at its minimum range. Any enemies that move into the web will be unable to move for 2 seconds. So it's just an AoE trap, so it can be quite overpowered. But the other move Vikavolt can learn at level 5 is Rising Voltage, where it electrifies the area underneath it for 4 seconds, moving the area with Vikavolt as it moves. All enemies within the electrified circle take damage and have their movement speed decreased by 50%. So that's 2 really strong moves there guys, and the second one, Rising Voltage, would work kind of like Zeraora but wouldn't do as much damage as the Discharge, but it would also have that area of effect slow, which would be really powerful. So at level 7, when you finally evolve into Vikavolt, you can learn Bug Buzz, where Vikavolt charges its energy into its wings and shoots a powerful vibration towards a designated target. The vibration will chain to other close by targets, reducing in damage by 10% every time. So it's kind of like a chain of damage where if there's a lot of people together, it'll consistently drop in damage as it jumps from one to the other, but can be really powerful if you group a lot of people into one place. Whereas the other move is more of a hand cannon nuke. So you've got Zap Cannon, where Vikavolt charges all of its voltage into an attack, firing a high voltage ball at a designated target. If this KOs an enemy, it resets the cooldown. So I would imagine this would be quite hard to aim, so if you hit someone with it, it'd be very rewarding, and I would imagine it would maybe KO someone from about half health. talented players could maybe get 3 or 4 pieces with it. If they use sticky web, maybe in conjunction with it to synchronize and to trap people and then nuke them down. Rising voltage at close range, it could work there, but you'd maybe be a bit more of a target. So 2 very different movesets. You'd have the high AoE bug buzz or the single target zap cannon. So for Vikavolt Unite move, we have max voltage, where Vikavolt flies up and unleashes high powered lightning strikes into the ground underneath it. As Vikavolt moves, it is immune to hindrances, and the lightning strikes move across the ground with it, doing high damage and slowing an enemy it makes contact with. This lasts for 5 seconds and stuns Vikavolt for 1 second upon landing. At any point, Vikavolt can cancel this by reusing the move. So it'd be very similar to Charizard's Unite move, where you fly up into the air and it's hard to hit you. However, it's more about controlling the lightning strikes rather than the Pokemon, and you kind of just move them around the ground while the Pokemon follows. You will be taking damage, but you will not be able to be hindered. And I don't really like the way you can't cancel Charizard's Unite move if you want to jump down and maybe score or something like that. So you can cancel this one. The passive is Battery Charge. When allied Pokemon are close to Vikavolt, it increases their Unite move recharge rate by 5%. So I just thought something like that would be a little different in the game. And it would allow for comps maybe to try and work together to get their Unite moves back quicker for Zapdos. I can just picture it now, the Vikavolt pre-Zapdos huddle.
Generation 8.
So for our final generation, we have Sirfetch'd with the role of All-Rounder. Sirfetch'd will evolve from Galarian Farfetch'd at level 5. And for move 1, we have Leer, where Farfetch'd immediately stares down a designated target, slowing it for 2 seconds and lowering the target's defenses. And for move 2, we have Brutal Swing, where Farfetch'd aggressively spins, cleaving all enemies in a full circle with its leak. The damage is reduced the more enemies that are hit. So we have a slow and defense drop with a cleave that isn't too overpowered because it does reduce in damage the more it hits, because we don't want it to be broken early game. So at level 4, it can learn Swords Dance, where Sirfetch'd sharpens its leak, increasing its attack damage, attack speed and movement speed by 20% for 5 seconds, so it's a good strong attack boost. Alternatively, it can learn Knockoff, where Sirfetch'd barges the enemy with its shield, dealing damage and stunning the enemy for 1 second. If this move successfully hits, the target's battle item is unusable for 5 seconds, so it can be quite a good one if you know someone's got an eject button and you don't want them to get away. You hit them with a Knockoff and then everyone piles on them. So 2 moves that can be one that's really high damage, or the other that can be a good utility that we haven't seen before. So at level 7, Sirfetch'd can learn Meteor Assault, where it violently swings its leak 3 times. Each swing that connects deals 10% more damage than the previous. If the final swing connects, it stuns the target for 1 second. So if you get all 3 swings off, it should near enough be a KO on one Pokemon, if it's a squishy Pokemon that is. So alternatively, you can learn Brave Bird, where Sirfetch'd leaps forward at high speed, smashing into the ground and dealing high damage. Sirfetch'd takes 10% damage after it crashes. If an enemy is KO'd by this move, it resets the move's cooldown. So guys, I love resetting cooldowns, and I think this could be awesome. Could you imagine just jumping from one to the next to the next? It'd be like Surf Greninja, but like maybe not as smooth, but just more like aggressive. If either of these builds takes Swords Dance with it, it'll make their KO potential more consistent, but Knockoff just has that really great not seen before utility that people might really want to take advantage of. So when thinking of Sirfetch'd Unite move and passive, I considered its Pokedex entries, where it talks about it being a very just and fair Pokemon. So the Unite move is Valiant Charge, where Sirfetch'd valiantly dashes forward, jousting all of the enemies in its path out of the way, knocking them up and dealing damage. So this Unite move takes inspiration of the jousting knights of olden times, and it would be very good to clear people off a point, or to try and maybe interrupt people while you're trying to get Zapdos or something like that. So the passive Fair Rewards, Sirfetch'd increases its critical hit rate by 10% for 2 seconds after each move used. This does not stack. So the aim would be to consistently use moves to try and keep your critical hit rate as high as possible. This does reflect in the Galarian Farfetch'd in the actual game. To evolve it into Sirfetch'd, you need to get 3 critical hits in a row. So I'm trying to bring a bit of that into this Pokemon Unite build. So yeah guys, that's all 8 Pokemon from all the generations. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below and let me know what Pokemon you would be most excited to play, or any of the builds that you might change, or anything you think's maybe a bit broken or maybe a bit weak. because I'd love to hear your input on this. I have spent quite a while trying to think of these moves, trying to think of these Pokemon, and come to my final sort of verdict. Also, out of the 898 Pokemon, if there's one that you would like to see that hasn't been mentioned in this video, or we haven't already got in the game, make sure to comment down below and let me know what that is. So I really appreciate you watching the video this long, guys. If you enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, I do post a lot of Pokemon Unite content, then feel free to subscribe, and until the next time, Fergie out.